Did I tell you I've started reading a horror novel in Braille?
No, Chad, you haven't told me that.
I'm at this part. I think something bad's going to happen. I can feel it.
I hate you so much, Chad.
I forgot. He did it to me at work on a Friday. And I made some dumbass joke, and then the next thing was, I can feel it. And I said, you should use that for the show. He goes, don't worry. I'll get it on James. Don't you worry. Then he called me pumpkin.
And then I walked over and did his hair.
Yeah, it was the thing we had. It was quite beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
Quite beautiful. Anyway, welcome to Bonehead.
Yeah, welcome to Bonehead. What an opener.
Bonehead Weekly. You know, this is like episode 119.
Is it?
Yeah, 117 was what you just was what I watched today, I should say.
Well, this will be 118. Next one will be Laurel. And then this should be 119.
I don't know when the last episode she left. Was Courtney joined her last episode?
No, I think 68 or 69. We're getting to the point where we're almost done. We've done. A
whole nother year without her.
Well, we've done over a year without her.
Yeah.
Oh, Haley. Off to the, I don't know. It all sounds like she's dead, but she's not dead.
I don't know. She's off to bigger and better things. That wasn't much of a challenge.
She only calls Chad for lunch, where the rest of us don't hear.
But it's a hell of a commute for me.
Oh, so she asked you to lunch too?
No, I'm just saying, why would she? It's a hell of a commute. Maybe it's just you, Joe.
It probably is. It's okay. So we're getting up there. So, it won't be long with 200 episodes, and then what?
Well, Joe, after 200, the next number is 201. You just add one to it, Joe. You just add one to it.
Just sit down in Mississippi. You sit down in Mississippi and eat your mud bugs and shut the hell up.
Tomorrow I get to go out to have a nice dinner.
With who? All by myself.
No, that's for Valentine's Day.
I invited you over for the Super Bowl.
I know. I appreciate that. Once again, if I was local, I would lovingly come and eat your food. And watch the New York Knicks versus the Wildcats. Who's playing this year? I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds good. Anyway, are we ready? What's today's topic?
Ensemble cast.
Ensemble cast.
So we've done our favorite actors or favorite actresses.
Did we do favorite actors? Character actors. And
favorite character actors, favorite
character actresses.
There's no.
And technically, it all should be actors, right?
Yeah, they're just actors. So, but
it's funny, and I agree with that. I agree that it's just actors. But people get real nervous if all of a sudden you go, well, since everybody's just actors, and I do agree with that. I do believe women and men should be on equal footing. But when it comes to awards time, they always want that actress category. And I understand why. And I'm not being sexist. I understand why. It's because the system is so inherently sexist that look at Best Director is all I'm saying. So
Yeah.
That was actually your serious moment for the day. Hollywood, do better.
I have 4 jokes, and none of them are appropriate, and they're all going to lose us listeners.
So anyway, but there are
I'm trying to get us listeners.
But there are some
Work
movies.
harder.
There are some movies where it's just not one actor or one actress. It's the sum of its parts.
It's the sum of its parts.
There are no small roles, only small people.
And they all were cast in The Wizard of Oz.
Which is an ensemble cast.
Which does have drunken orgy stories.
Yeah.
And we should do a whole episode on The Wizard of Oz sometime.
Well, it's very interesting. Speaking of drunken stories, I'll edit that a little bit. Oddly enough, that portion of that cast and then the visitors from Rocky Horror Picture Show, they both share that legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, there we go. So, gentlemen, who wants to go first? What? I just had my tea. It hasn't kicked in yet.
So, James, I don't think you ever go first for the most part. Why don't you go first this time?
So here's the thing.
Daniel says he goes first all the time. Or comes first.
There's a lot.
Are you coming or going?
There's a lot of people there, Joe. We can't verify that.
That's true.
Anyway, what my point is, as I sat down to do this, I actually sent back a text just to confirm. So we were talking about ensemble, and the initial thought I had, and I'm not going to talk about these because I assume probably you all will. But is it just me, or does Quentin Tarantino only do ensemble casts?
Well, you know what, James? That's true. I'm not going to do one of his movies. The reason
Okay.
being is because I wrote down all of his movies, and like,
Yeah.
and
That was
I
going to be
can't.
my
I'm not going to
honorable
do any of
mention
them.
if you all didn't get to it. But I'm going to go ahead and say he only does ensemble. But I'm not going to talk about those. I thought about
You know, the only
superhero
one where I don't think you could argue that it's not really an ensemble cast is either Jackie Brown or
See, I think Jackie Brown's an ensemble cast.
the Django.
Django Unchained. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, I would
consider,
say Django.
Django is rough with those braces, isn't it?
yes. My teeth just clashed together and caused me immense pain.
Now, how many more years do you have? You want to take a
Oh
break?
God, I hope in November. When November comes, my braces come off.
Oh, so we only have to do this till November.
Yeah.
Notice how I said we, Pumpkin.
Yeah, I know, Buttercup.
Because we all suffer. We all suffer. I
We
mean,
all
not as much
suffer.
as you.
I mean, with or without the braces.
But yeah, so
What's
Anyway.
your first movie?
So Quentin Tarantino does them all the time. And then I thought about superhero films because they all end up being ensemble casts once you get to Avengers, Justice League. But then I thought about there's a couple superhero movies that don't get the love that they probably deserve that are ensemble casts. And I thought about
is he going to do this?
Red.
Ah.
Shit. Okay.
Red?
That is a good ensemble cast.
Red is a great ensemble cast.
I thought you were going to go. I thought you were going to go. You know, a little.
There's another one I've got on my list. I'm going to see how the evening goes.
Okay.
I don't have any superheroes. We're good.
I don't either.
Red, if you don't know, is based on a comic book. It's called Red because Red stands for retired, extremely dangerous. Basically, it's these people that are
Retired.
CIA operatives, things like that, and they have all these skill sets and all these secrets, and they're so that's the general plot is. And Bruce Willis is in the film, based on a Warren Ellis comic. Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, John Malkovich, Carl Urban, Mary Louise Parker, and Helen Mirren. That's a heck of an ensemble.
Mary Louise and Helen.
And Carl Urban, Joe.
Yeah, he is dreamy. He's dreamy. I tell you, if he would just dress up as Dredd, he'd come in and talk to me for a minute.
Or Bones. Dread.
Now we're going to bone.
Yeah.
Carl Urban just don't know it yet. Hashtag me too, Carl Urban.
Production company was the Bonaventure, and it was a much bigger hit than they predicted it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was 58 million.
Spawned a sequel that wasn't very good.
Well, and allegedly they planned a trilogy, and as of 2013, the trilogy was still on, but it hasn't moved forward. So I'm assuming it's actually dead. But it's just a great cast. You get Bruce Willis playing actually to age for once, with Morgan Freeman, and it's just a great. They play off of each other well. It's just a watchable film.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, anybody, you got anything else about Red?
No. I think it's a good cast. I don't think it's what I was looking for when we think of ensembles, but I'm glad you went different with that.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't work without that everybody in that.
No, and John Malkovich and Helen Mirren almost steal the show in that. Specifically John Malkovich and then Helen Mirren. Yeah. All right.
So I'm gonna go. Man, I think in terms of ensemble cast, this might be up there with one of the best ensemble casts of all time. Period.
Yeah.
This movie, I picked this movie, and as I was writing my notes about it.
Yeah.
I realized I hadn't seen it in quite a while, so I actually sat down and watched it last night.
Uh-huh.
It's free on the IMDb channel, and man, it is still hilarious from beginning to end. The Birdcage.
Oh, that's not on mine.
So Robin Williams,
great
Nathan
movie.
Lane, Hank Azaria, Gene Hackman, Diane Wiest, Christine Baranski, and Dan Futterman and Callista Flockhart. You don't stop laughing from the beginning until the end.
Now, that's one of those rare movies that I think is superior to because it's a remake
of a French
film.
movie. Yes,
I think it's superior to the French film.
I agree.
Have I seen it? I think I have.
I've seen it a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it's superior to the French film.
And now, granted, the first 45, 50 minutes. They're not together. It's different. It's different. They're in different groups.
Yeah.
But then when they all come together at that house, it is pure acting and comedic genius.
Yep.
All of them play off each other. Sorry, people. I have races. They each play off each other perfectly. The timing is there.
Yeah.
The whole scene where Nathan Lane is revealed, and Gene Hackman's sitting there going, I don't understand.
Yep.
And then they because the whole time they've also changed their name from Goldman to Coleman. And he's just sitting there going, I don't understand. And he finally goes, you're Jewish? But I'm not doing it justice.
No, one of my favorite scenes in comedy history is in that film, and that is, and it's not necessarily an ensemble scene, but I love the scene where Robin Williams is trying to help Nathan Lane pass, and he tells him to walk like John Wayne, and Nathan Lane, by the way, nails that walk.
Yeah.
And then Robin Williams goes, I just didn't realize he walks like that. And I laugh every time because I'm like, I watched tons of John Wayne films and it's spot on.
Now, when I was doing research on the movie, the actual casting part of it is actually is really interesting.
Really?
Do you know who was originally cast?
No.
In
who is it?
So let's start back in the 80s. The original two, Frank Sinatra and Dudley Moore.
Really?
And Frank Sinatra was the one that was all on board. Dudley Moore wanted to pass. So that movie stayed in the water. When they came back, and Mike Nichols, who was, by the way, the director, and by the way, he was laughing so hard during the filming of this movie, they actually had to put a soundproof blanket over him when they shot. So the movie originally had Steve Martin in the role of Armand and Robin Williams as Albert. But timing forced Steve Martin to drop out, and Robin really liked the part of Armand because it was more manlier, and he thought he could do a better job with that, and Mike Nichols immediately cast him. This was Nathan Lane's I didn't realize this was Nathan Lane's breakout role. He had done Timon in The Lion King.
Yeah.
But the previous year, but before that, he was a bit player in like Life with Mikey.
He was a Broadway actor.
And that's where Mike Nichols was at a Broadway show. Yeah. And what I didn't get the name of the show, but Nathan was the lead, and he was just so impressed that he went backstage and offered Nathan Lane the part of Albert right there on the spot.
Oh, that's cool.
Whoops, sorry. 1 second.
So while you're looking that up, can I give a bit of history about it?
Ahead.
Are you going to talk about May? So that's written by Nichols and May. If you don't know who that is, they were a comedy group in the 60s, right? Mm-hmm. Can't remember Miss May's first name.
I can't either.
She's died now. Yeah. It's not Etta May, but she would go on.
Who's not died? Etta May has not died.
Her career was destroyed by a little movie called Ishtar. But she was a famous writer, famous comedian, and this is actually her bigger break after Ishtar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That she went because they were Mike Nichols and her were Nichols and May. Look it up. Were a comedy group in the 60s. That's the reason why she wrote it with him.
See, I didn't have that. No, Hank Azaria, who is amazing as Aguador. Oh crap. Anyway, Agador. Sorry. His part was actually two different roles when they initially began production. He was just supposed to be the costume person. The butler part later on in the movie was actually supposed to be David Allen Greer.
Huh.
But when Mike Nichols looked at it and realized Hank Azaria could actually do both for especially for timing and all this other stuff, Hank Azaria's part could be combined to those two. And I couldn't imagine
poor David Allen Greer lost his job.
But I couldn't imagine Hank Azaria not being in that part.
I agree.
And there's a funny tip. So I got this part off IMDb, so I don't know the validity of it, but it's on IMDb.
I just really want Stay Puft for the people watching on YouTube to be in this one.
So while Hank Azaria practiced for the part, but by the way, he initially his Guatemalan gay lisp. He originally didn't deliver it that way, but he thought he might be doing it wrong. So he developed that, but then he thought it might be offensive. So he actually asked a few of his gay friends, and they go, "No, that's dead on, perfect. Do that."
Yeah.
But when practicing, He's good friends with Billy Bob Thornton,
Mm-hmm.
who at the same time was shooting Sling Blade.
Yeah.
So to practice for both parts, they would actually drive around, pretending that Agador and Carl Childers were in a buddy cop film.
I just want them to go like to the drive-through and the In-N-Out burger.
Yeah.
French fried potatoes. I can't do that. I can't do.
Yeah, I can't do Agador.
I know, but I literally, by the way, now I want that to be a film.
No,
Yeah, I do too. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, that would have been an amazing film. Why didn't it ever get done? So Birdcage was my first obvious pick because that movie is an ensemble cast to the letter.
I've got one none of you picked.
Okay, go for it.
And I probably should grab another one that's one of my favorite movies of all time. This is not one of my favorite movies, but it has never left me. Like many of these other films that this filmmaker has made, it's non-American, they've never left. Whether I liked them or not, they're just here in my brain, which is he has a distinct voice. This cast: Nicole Kidman, Harriet Anderson, Lauren Bacall, Paul Bettany, Blair Brown, James Caan, Patricia Clarkson, Jeremy Davies, Ben Gazzara, Philip Baker Hall, and John Hurt. Nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about.
No.
Dogville by Lars von Trier.
I've actually never seen it.
So, A Woman on the Run. I'm going to read this.
This is shot as a stage play, right?
It started a stage play on a stage.
Yeah.
There's they make up the things as they go around, so it takes you about 30 minutes to really get into the movie as you're watching it, because there's not really sets.
Okay.
I'm going to read this straight from IMDb. I'm sorry about that, just so everybody knows, because I think this is one where I actually have to read the plot.
Okay.
I think most of our listeners now have seen Red. They've seen The Birdcage, but this one, a woman on the run from the mob is reluctantly accepted in a small Colorado town. In exchange, she agrees to work for them. As the search visits the town, she finds out that their support has a price, yet her dangerous secret is never far away. Tarantino has been a fierce advocate of this movie that's a polarizing film. A lot of people don't like it because there's no sets. It's a stage play, but it's still a movie. He claims if it was a play, it would have won the Pulitzer. Now, here's a story I found out about Paul Bettany and Stellan Skarsgård. Stellan Skarsgård is also in this movie. Stellan Skarsgård is in a lot of Lars von Trier's films. He's in Nymphomaniac. He's in Melancholia. Paul Bettany didn't want to play Tom Edison. Tom Edison's a guy who doesn't necessarily, he's a really sweet guy at the beginning, and like most Lars von Trier films, that's going to flip, right?
Yeah.
Well, you should watch them. Didn't want to play Tom Edison because they were shooting in Sweden. Then his friend Stellan Skarsgård told him that Lars von Trier's shoots were so funny. You'll miss something extraordinary if you turn the part down. After shooting half the movie, Bettany asked Skarsgård when the fun would start. To which Skarsgård replied, I lied. I did it because he's amazing to work with, and you wouldn't be able to see that before you were actually here yourself. I wanted to give you a chance, and you wouldn't have shown up if I'd have been frank with you about what he was really like. Yeah, Nicole Kidman swore really never to work with him again. There's a bunch of people who don't necessarily want to work with him again. He's not a happy guy. He's an alcoholic, quit drinking a few years ago. Dogville is 3 hours long. There's no sets. The fact that I'm recommending it to most people, but I swear if you'll just give it 30 minutes, and just kind of succumb to it and just let it kind of flow over you. The same thing with Antichrist, Melancholia, Nymphomaniac. I've watched both parts. These movies are an experience, and it's something that I think will stick with you. I may not like Nymphomaniac or can't necessarily recommend Antichrist, but I'd be damned if it isn't stuck right here in my brain, because that guy has a voice. Yeah. And I probably would never want to meet him. I couldn't probably want to interview him. I probably wouldn't have anything to talk to him about.
Yeah,
but he's an artist.
Dogville, though, you're right, is extremely polarizing. Even Siskel had passed away by the time it came out, but Ebert was still alive. And Ebert and Roper both slammed the film as anti-American.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know that. It probably is, but it's a fascinating movie. And the reason it just takes that small town culture that, well, honey, everybody loves you, and of course there's always something underneath. And by the way, David has done it for years.
I'm just telling you.
Why can't I think of the director's name of Dune?
Oh, David
Lynch.
Lynch.
David Lynch has done it for 30 years.
By the way,
subverting small town culture.
And by the way, David Lynch, you should really check out that short film on Netflix.
Christy goes, "Is that David Lynch?" I go, "Yep."
It is amazing. It's only 17 minutes, people.
Is it good though? Is it really good?
It's bizarre. I
know
enjoyed
it's
it.
Bizarre.
I actually sit there and smiled from beginning to end. I wish I'll look up the name of the movie before.
It's an owl, right?
No,
it's some sort of animal.
It's an animal.
Okay, I can't remember. I've got owls afraid. Owls are like owls. There's this. I heard this the other day. Do you think you want to eat an owl? It'd be like eating a fancy chicken.
I got.
I said that comment about Dogville from them, and I wanted to parallel that with exactly what you said. The Village Voice reviewer, his comments on it was that the film had, and let me quote this: passion, originality, and sustained chutzpah, and it was an austere allegory of failed Christian charity.
Failed what?
Christian charity.
Yes, absolutely.
And so again,
that's absolutely correct.
I wanted to show the two different extremes that reviewers had to it, because most people think, "Oh, Ebert and Roper."
By the way, the short film of David Lynch's on Netflix is "What Did Jack Do?"
It's a monkey. I can't remember.
I don't want to spoil it for the people.
All right. So anyway, Dogville. I've actually never seen all of Lars von Trier's films. I'd like to. I know, James, you're a big fan of The Kingdom.
The Kingdom is
that's Lars von Trier as well.
I love The Kingdom. It inspired Stephen King's remake Kingdom Hospital, which is vastly different. I'll be honest. Kingdom Hospital is entertaining. The Kingdom is downright creepy. There's scenes in it where I'm like, ew.
All right, let's keep rolling. James, you're next.
I'm going to stick on the Bruce Willis train. Another one. I knew you were going to get this is
because he's not considered the greatest character.
If you say North, I'm going to drive up to Mississippi and punch you in the face.
North.
That would be
a hell of a cast.
It does.
That wouldn't be up.
But it's not an ensemble cast because they're not all together. That's my big problem. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Bruce Willis, I think, to be honest, I know people love Die Hard, and I love Die Hard too.
Well, it's not an ensemble film.
I think the more he does ensemble films where there's all these interconnecting pieces, the more I like those films than some of his other non-Die Hard films.
By the way, go ahead.
Elijah Wood, Bruce Willis, Mickey Rourke, Clive Owen, Brittany Murphy, Benicio del Toro, and Jessica Alba.
That's on a lot of lists.
Sin City.
Yeah, it's on a lot of lists.
That's another one, by the way, the sequel. And the sequel is good, but I think the sequel loses something.
Well, the sequel came out over 10 years after the first one. If it had came out a year or two after the first one, it'd have been a success.
By the way, another good example of Bruce Willis in an ensemble cast that's really good. His segment of Four Rooms.
And Moonrise Kingdom.
Yep. Anyway, go ahead.
But Sin City, based on the award-winning graphic novels by Frank Miller, who also gave us some great Batman stuff. But it actually adapts, let's see, which one's the Big Fat Kill, The Hard Goodbye, and a couple of the other ones. But it is, it kind of relaunched Mickey Rourke for a while.
Yeah, that and The Wrestler.
But I mean, I think
the money on The Wrestler.
Didn't The Wrestler come out after Sin City? Am I misremembering that?
Yeah, it did. But I anyway.
No,
going.
Mickey, I agree with you that as far as street cred, or I guess industry cred, The Wrestler. But I think general audience, Sin City. But it was a big deal when it came out because it also had 3 directors, which caused some problems because you had Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, and special guest director is how he was credited, Quentin Tarantino. It's just a really cool movie. They stylize it like the comic. The coloring is odd. It's just really, really interesting. But again, I wanted to pick it because none of that movie works if you lose any of those pieces.
Yeah. All right.
And Elijah Wood is downright creepy in it.
I agree. That's one of Elijah Wood. Well, Elijah Wood's actually a pretty is in Maniac. The remake of Maniac's not bad either.
No, it's not bad either.
Problem is they cast Elijah Wood and you can't see him.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's kind of fucking stupid. For money. I mean, it's a little stupid.
Yeah. So my number 2 pick is another one of these great movies I think is kind of forgotten. And there's actually one standout performance in it. But again, it's the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Even though he's really great in it, it wouldn't have been as good if it hadn't been all for all the other people. Good night. Good luck.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't have that either.
Written and directed by directed by George Clooney and written by Clooney and Grant Heslov, who, by the way, has a connection to Birdcage. He is the videographer.
He was a character actor for years.
Yeah, he was in True.
Doesn't he part owner of Clooney's production company?
Yeah. They're co-founders.
Yeah.
David, I'm gonna butcher his name, and I'm sorry. David Strathairn. George Clooney, Jeff Daniels.
Strahan.
I think it's Strahan. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter.
Jeff Daniels, Patricia Clarkson, Frank Langella.
Oh, it's a good movie.
Any movie with Frank Langella, Robert Downey Jr., Ray Weiss, and Alex Borstein.
I forgot Robert Downey Jr.'s in it, but that's a good movie.
Yeah. So each morning, George Clooney would gather his cast members together and give them copies of the newspaper from that day in 1953.
Oh, really?
He'd then give them an hour and a half working on old manual typewriters to copy out the stories from the paper. He would then hold an improvised news conference with hidden cameras in which the cast members would pitch their stories to the editor.
That's so cool.
Just to get them into character to play people in a newsroom in the 1950s. So what Good Night and Good Luck is, it's about the battles of...
Who?
Edward Morrow.
Who?
Edward Morrow.
Well, all I remember is there was a senator at the time.
Yeah.
And he had a really good idea.
Yeah.
It was some sort of scare. Blue scare.
No.
Green scare. Aqua Velva. No, is it Red Scare?
It is the Red Scare.
And he was Charlie McCarthy, and he had a talking puppet. Three people. 3 people are going to laugh at that, right?
Yeah, 3 people.
3 people.
It's about Edward Murrow's battles with Joseph McCarthy.
Joseph McCarthy and the Red Scare.
And the Red Scare, him ruining people's lives just to get public attention.
Really quick, Chad and our background is this. We studied a lot of this in college. Even if we didn't, we'd still find this interesting. We would have known about this. This MFer ruined lives.
Yeah.
No joke. Talked about having a secret effing list. I notice I say the F word a lot, so I'm trying to cut it down a little bit more. Just say PG-13. Had a fucking list that was, sorry, James. You all right? You going to spew? You going to spew?
No,
Almost made him
I'm not
spew.
spew.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
And was Trump before Trump? Can you imagine if he'd had social media? Can you imagine if Joseph McCarthy had social media?
Yeah.
How much worse he would have been?
And the thing is, Joseph McCarthy actually didn't get away with it where Trump is. Anyway, but no.
See, the witnesses, they just don't want to call witnesses.
Yeah.
Well, and he fought the media.
Yeah.
Everything that you think has happened is happening. Oh, Jesus.
But no, but with Joseph McCarthy, when everybody thinks of McCarthy and the Red Scare, they think of the blacklist, the lives ruined in Hollywood. Nobody thinks about the actual basic people whose lives were ruined by this nonsense that this one man created. Besides going and seeing this movie and seeing how all the characters interact and how it just is a wonderful mesh of raw talent, go watch the original hearing where they actually finally called Joseph McCarthy out on his bullshit and how he just breaks down and can't handle it. He just stutters through the whole thing, and then finally it's worth watching. Please study that piece of history. But this movie, David
Strathairn.
Thank you.
Strathairn?
I think it's probably.
Strathairn.
So I had just had teeth work done on Friday. I'm having a hard time talking, so I'm going to have to rely on Jost to help me a little bit. But he was actually George Clooney's first consideration for this part.
Oh, really?
And he nailed it completely. But also, again, like Jeff Daniels as I believe he's the newsroom.
Uh-huh.
And then Frank Langella as the corporate company man.
Yeah.
And then
all these people existed.
Yeah, all these people existed. Now, granted, the interactions might not have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a movie. It's a Hollywood biopic. Don't ever watch it for history. If the movie interests you, then go look up the actual history on it. But no, I could sit here and talk for hours about Good Night and Good Luck the same way I could about Birdcage. But it is an amazing study of an ensemble cast.
He is right about one thing. He's right about their interactions throughout the day. That is the way it happened, though, with history. And second part of, there was a French reviewer who absolutely raked George Clooney over the coals for the actor's portrayal of Joseph McCarthy.
Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I was going to bring that. I forgot about that. Yeah, somebody actually and thought it was an actor and didn't realize they were actually using real clips.
That is all real footage of
Yes.
Joseph McCarthy in that movie. So it's in black and white, folks. So if that scares you off, you're really not a film fan.
The only other thing too is you don't see George Clooney moving around a lot. That's because he actually got injured. That was right after his back injury on Syria.
He won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for that movie. Probably should have won for Best Director. I don't know who won that year.
Yeah.
But actually, it's probably not his best performance. But actually, I think in real life, the character he played was a much more verbose, lively person. He actually toned him down because he was directing him.
Right. And also, he couldn't. They wouldn't even insure him for that movie because of his back injury. So,
all right, my next one is a black and white film too. I'm going to steal it before somebody else does.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be the one that I didn't do research on because I thought you were going to break it up.
Yeah, it's Martin Balsam, John Fiedler. Let me get through this. Lee J. Cobb, E.G. Marshall, Jack Klugman, Edward Benz, Jack Warden, Henry Fonda, Joseph Sweeney. Why were you not going to do it?
I didn't do it because I was like, Joe's going to bring it up.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
Ed Begley, George Voskovec, Robert Weber. And it's directed by one of my heroes, actually, Sidney Lumet. Sidney Lumet, if you're a fan of film, you should read his book on filmmaking. It's only about 200 and some pages, and I've never made a huge film, but I'll tell you, as far as just nuts and bolts of this is what I did throughout the day, this is what should help you, this is how it helped me. I don't think there's not a lot of better books on filmmaking if you get a chance. Sidney Lumet, we're talking about 12 Angry Men. It was a stage play, and it became a television film, and then it was a movie he made. I was doing research for this. I saw 12 Angry Men when I was quite young, and it struck me and has never left me. And now in these times that we live in, we always live in times, I keep telling myself that, right? There's always some shit going on. But where the one guy has to stand up against the other 11, I think that's true of any time that we're in. That sometimes you have a moral compass that's pointing you one way towards something that's right, and it's going to be hard and it's going to be difficult and people are going to hate you. But if you're going to be straight of center of who you are, then you're going to have to do it. And that's what 12 Angry Men's about. It's about 12 jurors in a room, and one of them thinks, I'm not going to convict this kid until we talk it out, because everybody else has got him convicted from the jump. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, watch it.
It all takes place in one room.
One room. I didn't realize it was not a hit. It lost money.
Well, I did not know that.
Was not a hit at all. I did not know either. Which is funny because it's a movie. The other one that was not a hit was Failsafe, but that's because of Dr. Strangelove killed that. Anyway, Matt caught a topic. There is a 90s version that was made for Showtime,
which is directed by William Friedkin.
And stars a bunch of people.
Let me name them: Courtney B. Vance, Ozzie Davis, George C. Scott, Armin Mueller-Stahl, Dorian Harewood, James Gandolfini, Tony Danza, Jack Lemmon, Hume Cronin, Makaleti Williamson. I'm butchering it. He played Bubba. Edward James Olmos, and William Peterson.
And by the way, that's a good movie too.
It is an amazing movie.
It's just not the first one.
It's not the first one.
And it's not because Jack Lemmon is any better or worse than Henry Fonda. In fact, Jack Lemmon, to me, is a better actor than Henry Fonda. Not to take anything away from Henry Fonda, who was a national treasure, I suppose. But 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney Lumet, is one of my favorite films. It's the first time, one of the few times when I was young. I think I might have seen it in 7th or 8th grade. And it might have been for school. That I thought, oh, that's a director. I need to watch the rest of his movies, which led me to Serpico, which led me to Network, which Network is one of it. I've expounded about that on here a dozen times. I just think if you haven't seen 12 Angry Men, it speaks to this generation, to the previous generation, to the next generation. Yeah. It is a timeless story with 12 fantastic actors.
Right. And the one thing I'll say too, about the 90s version versus the original.
I forgot William Friedkin directed that.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. George C. Scott, I think, actually does a almost better performance than
Lee J. Cobb. Really?
Oh God. The last
he does
part,
lose it.
When he loses it, it literally
and it's
shakes.
About his son.
Yeah. It shakes me to my core.
It's good.
So you cannot talk about an ensemble cast without talking about 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, it's good. I truly highly recommend it. And I'm with Chad. I don't have a copy of it. I wish I did. The 90s version is really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And if you can actually take actors and put them in a room
One
room for 2 hours and entertain an audience, you got it. I mean, Hateful Eight, for God's sake.
That is the hardest thing on earth to do. Any director will tell you 8 people. It's like the thing John Carpenter says. That's the hardest thing when they're all around the table. 8 people around the table talking is the hardest thing a director will ever do.
Right.
In a film. James. Sorry. Chad just seemed to be.
No.
Argue.
No, I was letting you all run because speaking of sitting around a table and having scenes, I've got a question for you, Joe. Who's the coffee for?
Huh?
Who's coffee for?
Who's coffee?
Coffee is for closers.
Oh, you son of a bitch! I almost took it. Look what's next. Yeah. Look what's next. You cock.
Well, now you
coffee is for closers.
I'm not screaming something, but I want to. You son of a bitch.
You've already yelled some pretty.
No, but I was going to start talking about.
Okay.
Jonathan Pryce being the huge star. No, Jonathan Pryce, Kevin Spacey, Alan Arkin, Ed Harris, Alec Baldwin, Jack Lemmon, and Al Pacino. See, you all had one you agreed on. Now we have one we agree on. Glengarry Glen Ross does not work without that cast.
No.
Can I give one thing about it?
Go ahead.
Since you stole it from me? Fuck or a version of it is used 138 times.
Well, it's a David Mamet screenplay, right?
Yes.
So,
actually,
yeah.
Do you know what they called it when they were filming it? What the cast started to refer to it as? Because it was said so often. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I want you to say it, Buttercup. It's yours.
No,
go right ahead. You can even do the edited version of it.
Death of a effing salesman.
It's death of a fucking salesman.
I got it. Shit.
No, it wasn't really effing. It was fucking shit.
I know. I was really.
See, he said effing, but it was fucking.
You misquoted somebody, James. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, David fucking man.
The movie
use words like fists. Fists.
The movie.
Speaking of fisting, you just fisted me out of this movie.
I didn't steal it from you. We just happened to have the same.
I almost went with it, but I was like, I got to talk about 12 Angry Men. I'm such a dumbass.
I love this movie wasn't a huge success.
No, it's
10.7 at the box office on a $12 million budget, but then it started to win awards. And now it is such a big part of the cultural lexicon. If you've never seen Glengarry Glen Ross, but you've watched The Simpsons, you've seen parts of Glengarry Glen Ross because old Gil will be eating people food tonight.
Yeah, it's Jack Lemmon's character. But the thing is I think there's a lot of people who quote it and use it, or have seen Saturday Night Live sketches that make fun of it with they don't make fun
Alec
of it.
Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin.
They
think it's hilarious.
That closer line's done by everybody and nobody knows where it's from.
I don't think they know where it's from. I really don't.
It's all about basically crooked real estate, all of that stuff. But really what it's about is how jacked up these people are in their relationships with one another and this combative environment. It's a fascinating set of characters.
It's death of a fucking salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Hey, the winner wins a Cadillac. Number 2 gets a set of steak knives. 3, James.
Oh, crap.
They go home. They're fired. You're fired. He's a good husband. Fuck you.
Yeah. Well, no, I
automatically
cut to the, you know how much this watch costs?
It's for closers.
Coffee is for closers. It is. It's if you haven't seen it, much like in a very different way, much like with 12 Angry Men, though, it's when they are all there and that pressure is palpable. I mean, you feel like, because I sometimes think, what would I do if I was in that room? And the answer I realized was I wouldn't be in that room.
Well, Jack Lemmon said before he died it was the greatest ensemble cast he ever was with.
I was about to say, and that was shared.
And he was in 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, well, he was in the other one, yeah. Alec Baldwin and James Foley, the director, both said it's their favorite film.
The noted English critic, to the level that he is knighted as an English critic, he's an OBE, Philip French.
Yeah, you know me.
He said that in his opinion, and he's been doing movie reviews since 1963, that movie had the greatest American cast ever assembled, just because of the way they were able to pull off that film.
Oh, it's good.
I don't know if I necessarily agree that it's the greatest, but it's definitely in the top 10.
Yeah, and the thing is the play is actually different than the movie. There's characters that exist in the movie that didn't exist in the play that was both written by David Mamet. I don't know if you all knew that or not. Yeah, I think Alec Baldwin's character is not isn't. It's a different thing in the play. And here's a little trivia about it. The trailer for it's awful. The trailer tried to sell it as a thriller. This movie is the furthest freaking thing from a thriller that you've ever seen.
Right.
It's a character study about men losing their minds, being middle-aged or older in a place that they don't necessarily want to be, in a time that they can no longer handle, from pressures that are killing them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and Jack Lemmon, I mean, the reason Gil from The Simpsons, Jack Lemmon is trying to, he used to be God. I mean, he used to be epic, and now he's just trying to keep his family together.
Is his name Sandy in the movie? I can't remember.
In the movie, he is,
Shelley Levine.
Shelley. Yeah. But it is, again, it's just compelling. And it's almost, to me, the season, like I said, they're almost hard for me to watch because I'm like, I don't know what I would do if I was in that room.
Right.
Find another living.
Yeah. That's why I don't belong in sales.
So what do you think? You think I'm going to get 3 or 4?
I mean, if you want to do 2, that's fine.
Okay. Then I'm going to do what was going to be my 4th pick. And then I'll save my 3rd pick for last. This is another great movie. Again, it's a movie where a lot of people focus on 1 or 2 characters, but honestly, it's the ensemble that makes the movie. My Cousin Vinny.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that an ensemble?
It is a complete ensemble.
Is it?
Yeah. You have Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei, but then you have Fred Gwynn. You have the sheriff, Bruce McGill. You have the prosecutor, Lane Smith. And you have Austin Pendleton as the stuttering lawyer.
You just have a hard-on for Austin Pendleton. And by the way, you should.
He's
hard-on worthy.
No, Joe is referring to Gilbert Gottfried's.
I'm not arguing with you. He's hard-on worthy. I said it up front. Austin, come on the show. You're hard-on worthy.
Yeah, so Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast just did recently an interview with Austin Pendleton, and it is an amazing bit of business about Hollywood.
It is. It's fantastic. And Gilbert Gottfried's show is fantastic. And Chad introduced, all credit to Chad. If you can see, he's hard on worthy as well for showing me about it. I never get to listen to it, but when I have, he does a great job of digging into the history of Hollywood.
But when you get in that courtroom and Lane Smith, Fred Gwynn, Joe Pesci, and then when eventually Marissa Tomei gets involved, that is pure acting genius. That's why I consider this an ensemble piece. There are scenes where it's just Joe Pesci and there's just Marissa. It's just them two, and they drive the movie. But then you enter in everything else, and it is
over Disorganized Crime.
Yeah, Disorganized Crime didn't even make my list.
They didn't me either. But I was sitting here thinking about Fred Gwynn left us too early.
Yeah, but it was directed by Jonathan Lynn and written by Dale Lallner. One thing I didn't know about this was a lot of the courtroom scenes. So Jonathan Lynn's background, and by the way, you should listen to his episode of Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast.
I need to listen to his stories about Blazing Saddles.
Yes, and his stories about working with Monty Python.
Yeah.
So a lot of his background is in law, so he wanted to make sure the courtroom scenes were exactly as they would be in real life. So a lot of the courtroom scenes are actually praised by real lawyers to this day.
Really?
When law professors talk about the law, they recommend their students watch this movie. The scene with the automotive expert, played by, I'm blanking on his name. I didn't write it down. Anyway, that's actually taken from a transcript from a real live court case. Cool. Austin Pendleton, you'll find this out in the podcast if you listen to it, is a real life stutterer. So originally he turned down the part of the stuttering lawyer, John Gibbons, but he did it as a favor to Jonathan Lynn. And honestly, he actually had trouble finding work after My Cousin Vinny because of the stutter. People thought that he could. Now, here's the 2 things that I want to talk about.
Even though he's even in the Muppet movie, but keep going.
Here are 2 things that I didn't know about My Cousin Vinny until I did the research. Joe Pesci wasn't the original choice.
Who was?
Jim Belushi.
Oh, that's,
And Jim Belushi
traded up.
And Jim Belushi actually considers it his biggest disappointment of his career that he turned down that role.
Yeah.
Granted, My Cousin Vinny wouldn't have been the same.
No, but he did Taking Care of Business instead.
Yeah.
Right?
Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin Taking Care of Business.
And then Mona was actually not supposed to be played by Marissa Tomei. They originally wanted Lorraine Bracco, but she turned down the role.
I can see that.
No, I can't believe you don't think it's an ensemble cast. Is it just because of the strong performances by those two?
Yeah. The rest of them just don't have as much screen time.
But when they're on the screen and they're interacting, those courtroom scenes are some of the best in movie history, in my opinion. So yeah, My Cousin Vinny. Now that's
is that
why,
Fred Gwynn's last movie? I think so.
I have to take a look. I think you might be right.
I think it's Fred Gwynn's last.
When you talk about your third one, I will look that up. So My Cousin Vinny.
I'm really torn. James.
Oh, Natalie Imbruglia style.
There's a ton here, but I only did research for 4. So I'll go ahead, but I think this one is a downer, and I hate to end on a downer, but it is one of the best acting pieces I've ever seen. Like Dogville, I haven't revisited. Only the difference is this shook me, and I had a hard time with it, and I'll say
Did it shake you all night long?
No, but I cried quite a bit watching it, and there's other people who won't watch it because it's still too true to them. And the movie is Paul Greengrass's United 93.
Okay.
I can't watch it.
That gentleman, that's an acting. There's a couple of known stars in there, but I'm not going to read all of them because most of them are unknowns. A lot of the people who are in the FA or the what's it called with the radios. Anyway, let me read some.
By the way, My Cousin Vinny was his last movie.
Okay. Paul, if you don't know the story, United 93 is about the plane United 93 that the passengers crashed on the day of September 11th. To make the movie as authentic as possible, Greengrass cast a number of real-life participants in the events to play themselves. The principal real-life role in the movie is Ben Steinle, the FAA's National Operations Manager, who made the decision on 9/11 to shut down all air traffic operations in the United States. Sliney had just been promoted to National Operations Manager, and that was his first day on the job, was September 11th.
Wow.
This explains the applause from the FAA flight monitors when he walks in the control room at the beginning of the movie. Several officials who were with Sliney on the FAA control room play themselves, including Tobin Miller, Rich Sullivan, Tony Smith. In the scenes at the Newark airport, all the air traffic controllers who were at the Newark control tower on 9/11 who witnessed the air attacks in the World Trade Center play themselves. At the air traffic monitoring centers in Boston, New York, and Cleveland, the air traffic monitors are all played by real-life air traffic controllers, including several who were at those locations and monitored the hijackings. At the Defense Center at Needs in Rome, New York, most of the military personnel are played by real-life military controllers. Also in United 93, the actors playing the pilots in the movie are real-life airline pilots, and the flight attendants are played by real-life flight attendants, some of whom work for United Airlines. It's a tough movie to watch. I've not revisited it. It isn't necessarily on a bunch of lists because when I started doing research, I always do this. I always look at who's top 25 or top 50. It's a good place for me to start. It kind of gets my pump primed. I know Chad doesn't do that. Chad just goes from the top of his head, but it helps me prime my pump, for lack of a better way of putting it. And that's not on a lot of lists, and it just kept coming to me. And I think it's important for us to watch, even as tough as it is to watch, because I know it's cliche to say we shouldn't forget, but it's also cliche that we probably shouldn't forget that, yeah, there's several people who died, but these people, some of them, they gave our lives trying to save people. And not to bring it down on an end, but their story needed to be told. And Greengrass does an extremely good job of keeping it as straight as possible. And it's told straight. It's almost like a documentary. And it'll level you.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it?
Nope.
Am I the only one?
I can't watch it. Sorry. I mean, it's one of those films that there's a couple of films that my father has said that he can't watch. Some of them having to do with the coal strikes where people were killed. My dad actually will not watch any film about that because it's family history evidently there that I don't know. That being said, it's one of the ones that I agree with you. It need to be made. I think that's a great story. Just with my own personal connection to that day, I can't bring myself to watch.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film.
Yeah, I still haven't seen World Trade Center either. So
I've seen parts
haven't
of World
either.
Trade Center. It's not the same. I not to take anything away from James's person, Nicolas Cage, and Oliver Stone is a great filmmaker, but United 93 is another level.
Okay.
It's another level of realism that's just, it's important. But I don't think anybody talks about it. It never comes up.
So, James, you have another one, or do you want me to go to my?
I do. I have another one. I was
wondering if you were going to bring up the one that you mentioned in text.
No, I'm not. I did that to get my pump primed. I figured one of you all might be thinking about that.
Haley's going to cry. She doesn't listen.
No. We're in the.
And she does. She'll invite Chad to lunch.
I think so I was thinking about great ensemble films I like, and of course my mind goes.
He's going to say Three from Hell.
Before, shut up, Chad. That I've talked about before. I love The Great Escape, and then I went, no, if you talked about The Great Escape before, maybe you should go 10 years earlier with Billy Wilder's Stalag
17. I thought about talking about it myself.
It is. If you've never seen Stalag 17, it is technically a comedy drama.
Yeah, it's got some funny parts in it.
It's narrated by Clarence Harvey Cookie Cook.
Yeah.
Acts as a narrator. But it's about a stalag, basically prisoners of war and things like that. And the 2-second version of it is there's a spy inside and they have to figure out who the spy is. But that is only one small piece of, there's been attacks and there's been stuff like that, and conning your way into getting to stay in the Russian women's side of the prison, and there's just so much going on in the film that it is this weird slice of life in a prison. Stars William Holden, Don Taylor, Otto Preminger. Again, directed by Billy Wilder.
And Otto Preminger was a famous director, doing a favor for Billy Wilder.
But Billy Wilder, and the screenplay was by Wilder and Bloom.
And why did he do Mr. Freeze?
I don't know. I guess he did do Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, he was.
Money?
Probably the end of his career.
Oh, Otto Preminger, made. Anyway, go
ahead.
But anyway, if you've never seen Stalag 17, and I said, I really enjoyed The Great Escape, which is, but Stalag 17 is, it's equally compelling to me. It's just not. This is odd to say about a film set in a camp, in a prison camp. Great Escape's more fun to me for some reason, but Stalag 17 is compelling.
Anatomy of a Murder. He directed. I'm sorry. Keep going, James.
So I just wanted to bring up Stalag 17 because, again, I think Great Escape, oddly enough, is becoming better known as time has passed. Less people refer to Stalag.
Yeah, I don't think I think people bring up other movies by Billy Wilder, but I don't think you see Stalag 17 quite a bit.
Right.
But Stalag 17, and by the way, was a huge hit when it came out. It had a budget of, and they've got this down to the penny, by the way, $1,661,530. Made in the box office in 1953, $10 million.
Yeah, it's good money.
It was a pretty big hit, and won some awards as well. But if you've never seen Stalag 17, you should watch it. It really is. Again, you gotta watch black and white film. Life's hard, but there's a lot of things in that film that get echoed forward. Everything from the use of a chess piece, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to give anything away. Watch Stalag 17. Billy Wilder.
All right, so. Joe worried about ending on a downer.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm going.
Too reminded depressing.
I'm going to uplift myself. I'm going to uplift the ending of the show. It actually was my number 3 pick, but since I want to talk about 4, that's why I brought my cousin Vinny into the fray. This one actually popped on my list because I realized we have done over 100 episodes, and we have yet to talk about one of this man's films. He's one of my favorite directors and writers of all time. He actually, if I could ever get into film, I wish I would have his talent.
John Cherry.
And we're going to end not talking about United 93 or World War II. We're going to talk about a poop monster, Dogma. Written and directed by Kevin Smith. Stars Kevin Smith, Jason Mewes, Linda Florentino, Chris Rock, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Jason Lee, Selma Hayek, and Alan Rickman, with special guest appearances by George Carlin and Alanis Morissette.
No, that's an ensemble.
That is an ensemble.
That's an ensemble.
Alan
Rickman.
So I am a huge fan of Kevin Smith. Honestly, you can talk about his recent work. The only movie I think he's done that's unwatchable for is Yoga Hosers.
It's pretty unwatchable.
But Kevin Smith is a talent that I think has lost a little bit of respect over the years.
But he's more popular now than he probably
because
has ever
of podcasting and all this other.
Do you not agree though? He's more famous.
He's more famous now, yeah, than ever.
I mean, he's proliferated through media. He's on the cake show. He was one of the guests. You know what I mean?
Really?
It's just little things.
But and he does basically kind of stand-up shows. I've actually had the pleasure of seeing him live, but
as opposed to dead.
Did you know you were there?
His first 6 movies are honestly great examples of ensemble cast. But Dogma is probably my personal favorite Kevin Smith movie because of what it tackles. It tackles religion. It tackles.
Did you never see Tusk?
I've seen Tusk. I enjoyed Tusk.
But Dogma's your favorite?
Oh. Yeah, I know. I have terrible taste. What can I say?
Did you not see Red State?
Yeah, so are you gonna keep going? How long are you gonna keep doing?
Did you not see Yoga Hosers?
God, I can't even watch.
You know what? Yoga Hosers, I'll forgive him. Yoga Hosers, I'll forgive him. But the Two Dick movie, what is it? Cop Out.
Oh, I take that back. I actually have not gotten through Cop Out.
Yeah,
that's the only Kevin Smith movie I have not got all the way through.
Yeah,
I forgot about Cop Out. I wish it had had its original title, Two Dicks.
Two Dicks.
But no, two quick facts before we get into the honorable mentions about because, like I said, again, Dogma is all about the interactions of all these characters, especially when they all get together. It's just gold for me.
Comedy gold.
It is
gold, Jerry. It's gold.
So Kevin Smith for the role of Metatron, he always wanted he always wanted Alan Rickman, but they were afraid to approach him.
Yeah, he's scary. He tried to kill Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And he tried to kill Kevin Costner.
He also wasn't
to kill several people in Hollywood.
He also wasn't too kind to that boy wizard.
No. But it turns out he was kind to that boy
was tough
wizard.
love.
That was tough love.
But
boy wizard needed.
Always, Joe. Always.
But when Kevin Smith finally gave him the script, Alan Rickman only had 2 things. Would we stay faithful to it? And are the wings real or CGI? Those were the only 2 things he cared about. The only piece that he wishes he would have recast is Linda Florentino because of how difficult she was
to work with you.
He actually wished he would have given that role to Janine Garofalo, who actually has a bit part as Linda Florentino's friend at the abortion clinic.
Is it Florentino or Fiorentino?
And, the way I have it written, it's Fiorentino.
Okay,
sorry. It is Fiorentino.
That's all right.
How did she get cast? I'm sure.
I don't have the specifics of how she got cast.
I think I know exactly how she got cast. She was a breakout star in a small independent film called, is it The Last Seduction or something like that?
The Last Seduction, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm almost assuming, I bet that's who the Weinsteins wanted because of that.
Oh, really?
Well, Google it. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think I may be wrong.
Well,
she's
and
also
we
in
know.
Jade, right?
We know.
Yeah, she's in Jade, which is terrible.
Yeah, but I think that's where she shot the fame and then quickly
just went.
It petered
but
out.
The Weinsteins are trustworthy people.
I wonder why she was so difficult. I've heard that before, but I don't remember the specifics.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis, he will give specifics.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, just watch Dogma. People think of when Kevin Smith, they think of Clerks, Mallrats Chasing Amy. Dogma, I feel like, is kind of not talked about as much.
It was a big deal when it came out, though.
Yeah, and one of the funny stories about Dogma is, like I said, the Catholics really, really did not want this movie to come out. There was a lot of protest. One of the funny stories is in New Jersey, one of the Catholic groups got together to do a protest outside of the cinema, and Kevin Smith actually showed up and pretended to be one of the protesters and actually got on the news to talk about how much he hated the film and why people shouldn't see it. So, yeah, he actually trolled his own movie. Yeah. But, again, that's Kevin Smith, the man, the myth, the legend.
All right.
Honorable mentions. And I will say this: originally, when I brought up the idea of ensemble cast, there was one movie that I wanted to bring up because, as you know, I always bring up some obscure, not really great movie, and Tremors.
Okay. Can I do about 5 honorable mentions?
Dude,
I've got a lot.
You got. Well, the
roll on.
reason being is everybody did 4 but me.
I'm going to blast through my list. So go ahead. Of 22 films.
Really quick. So I almost did this, but I think it's just such a big movie. I think we forget that Lord of the Rings is one of the best ensemble casts of all time.
I didn't even make my list. You're right. It is an ensemble cast.
That is one of the best ensemble. That is one of the. Even for people who are diehard Tolkien fans, who's going to play him other than Elijah Wood?
Yeah.
Who's going to play him other than I could just go through the damn list,
even
nailed every single one of them.
Even after the first one, when they break up in the smaller groups, it's still amazing. The cast.
The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
One of the best ensemble casts of all time.
That's just sucking up to the Greers, but go ahead.
No, I did that on Facebook.
I know, I saw.
I did it. And by the way, kudos.
Yeah, good job.
I didn't realize that's the first time the 4 of them have been together.
Good job.
Did you know that?
No, good job.
I would have assumed they did it every month.
I would have thought so too.
But not according to Jamie.
Good job, Lexington Comic Con.
Stop sucking up to him. All right, The Usual Suspects. I can't believe neither one of you brought that up.
I was going to, but I went with a different Spacey film.
Yeah, The Big Chill.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually thought you would do A Fish Called Wanda.
I was going to put it on my list, but I thought you were going to do it.
Yeah, I almost did.
And Kevin Spacey was going to make my list for another movie.
And there's several others, and then I'm going to let you do some honorable mentions, and there's one I want to talk about at the end. But I thought you would have done Mars Attacks.
It's a heck of a cast.
It's a heck of a cast. Yeah.
It does have Joe Don Baker in it, Jad.
Yeah, well, I mean, does it need anything other than Joe Don? All right. You do your honorable mentions real quick.
All right, my honorable mentions. First off,
you probably have 42.
Film.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Every superhero film team. You've got Guardians of the Galaxy, Justice League.
Nope, name them all.
No. Those are the ones I'm going to mention because those are obvious. Dunkirk.
That's a good one.
Dunkirk is a great ensemble film.
Tarantino says it may be the best movie. It's at least in the top 2 or 3 of the last 10 years, the last decade.
Both the new and the remake and eventual sequels of Ocean's 11, I didn't want to talk about because we've done that. There's a bunch of other ones that are ensemble comedies. Going old school, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yeah, they showed up on that, and Ocean's 11 showed up on every list.
Trying to recapture that and not doing it as well, I would argue Rat Race. Some of these I didn't talk about because we talked about them before, or at least made allusions to them. Things like the Poseidon Adventure. One comic film that I almost did in place of Sin City because I do enjoy the film, and now it's a TV show that people say are outdoing the film. Watchmen.
Yep.
And the other honorable mention, The Longest Yard. Not The Longest Yard. The Longest Day.
Both of them are good.
Yeah.
Towering Inferno, I've got to mention because my parents wanted to see that on a date, and that date went well. And The Help, and it doesn't matter how you feel about The Help, or if you've ever seen The Help, or if you're shocked that I'm talking about The Help, but The Help actually, that movie is stronger because of the cast that's in it.
And Steel Magnolias probably should be in that too.
Yeah, A Bridge Too Far as well. But anyway, that's some of the ones that I almost talked about.
So some of the movies on my list I didn't bring up because we've already talked about them, so I didn't want to bring up again. But I do want to mention the Kevin Spacey movie that we didn't bring up. That isn't a great ensemble cast, other than The Usual Suspects, L.A. Confidential. But again, we talked about in the previous film episode. Sneakers is a great ensemble cast.
I've never liked Sneakers.
I love Sneakers, and it is a great ensemble cast. But I mentioned it in a previous
episode.
It's a
good cast, but I always think Robert Redford's miscast.
James didn't mention Mystery Men. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
That's a
Kiss Kiss Bang
ensemble though.
What Mystery
Men? I would say that's a duo.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Michelle Monaghan.
Yeah, but Kilmer, you really only deal with Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer.
Well, that's why I struggle with it. It might not be an ensemble cast. That's why I didn't make it all.
It was a damn good movie. Go out and watch it.
Snatch.
Love Snatch.
Beetlejuice.
I was going to say, basically, a bunch of Guy Ritchie films are like Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Joe might not have heard me earlier. I was going to bring up Tremors.
Oh, I heard you.
Mixed Nuts.
That's not a good movie, though.
I enjoy Mixed Nuts.
All right.
Haunted Honeymoon.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Ed Wood, Harlem Nights, The Godfather, A Few Good Men.
That's a good one.
As Good as It Gets.
Yeah, that's 4 people, though. An ensemble. I keep going.
Big Lebowski. Ghostbusters. The Sandlot. and Galaxy Quest.
All right.
One final one I need to mention, just or I'll lose my street cred, and probably 8 people have seen this film. I'm Not There, but it's a weird ensemble because they're all playing the same guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the Bob Dylan, Jim
Bob
Jarmusch.
Dylan.
Yeah.
If you've never heard of I'm Not There, if you've never heard of I'm Not There, that would be the film where Richard Gere, Ben Whishaw, Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, Marcus Carl Franklin, and Kate Blanchett all play Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Okay, really 2 quick ones. Neither one of you all mentioned JFK or Nashville. I'd be shocked if either one of you seen Nashville.
I haven't.
I have actually. That's
Robert
Altman.
Altman.
Right?
Robert Altman.
That's one of the Altman films I have seen that
people love it, and I don't care for it. But it's a great ensemble.
Most Robert Altman movies are a great ensemble. I forgot. I can't believe we didn't mention MASH.
Now, Shortcuts is another one that was on a lot of lists. Here's one that's on nobody's list but mine. Alien 3.
Huh. Okay.
I just think if you go back of all the great British actors that are in that movie that went on to do some other things, Alien 3. There you go. And with that, we're done. If you have ones that you think were wrong or that we missed or that you want to hate us, or you want to send us hate mail, you can send all that to Chad Jennings' address.
And we didn't mention Mel Brooks movies because we've already talked about Mel Brooks and then.
Well, I was going to say,
and Tarantino too. I'm with you all. Almost all of them are.
That was my problem. As I sat down to do this, I was like, I'm going to end up talking about, because you could argue
I think Reservoir Dogs is the ultimate.
Oh, yeah.
Most Star Trek films are ensemble casts.
Ensemble. All right,
so,
then.
I mean, we've talked about so many of these already, so I tried to throw out new ones this time. So if you hate my list, it's Chad's fault.
It's all Chad's fault. Thank you all so much.
It up. This is Bonehead.
We're out. Push stop.
Eat bananas so you don't get cramps.